Hello, my name is Henry, and this is the True Crime Henry channel, a soldier who risks his life every day for the people of his country, whose sole purpose in life is to ensure that no harm comes to his fellow citizens, even at the cost of his own life. But what happens when that very soldier turns into someone who no longer protects but becomes a threat to his own people? A soldier who cares nothing for his own life but is deeply committed to the safety of others. What if such a soldier becomes a serial killer? Can you imagine how horrifying that transformation would be? Today, I bring to you the story of such a soldier. Without further ado, let's begin the story of Robert Lee Yates, also known as the Grocery Killer. Robert Lee Yates was born on May 27, 1952, in Spokane, Washington. Coming from a middle-class family, Yates had a relatively normal childhood. However, certain incidents in his early life deeply impacted his personality. Yates's parents were extremely religious, devout in their prayers, and highly disciplined. They adhered strictly to their beliefs, which shaped Yates's upbringing significantly. Even as a child, Yates had a personality molded by the strict and pious environment around him. He used to be an introvert, someone who rarely spoke to others and wasn't social. He didn't have many friends and preferred to stay in his own world. The few friends he had described Robert as an average student in school. He wasn't particularly good at academics and showed no interest in sports or extracurricular activities. However, there was one thing he was deeply interested in: the military and weapons. During school, most of Robert's attention was directed toward hunting and shooting. He would often skip classes or run away to places where he could practice hunting or shooting. These activities subtly drew him toward violence from a young age. After high school, Robert enrolled in college, but his academic performance remained average. Soon, he decided to join the U.S. Army. The discipline and structure of the military gave his life a clear direction, and his career in the Army turned out to be quite impressive. He underwent helicopter pilot training and successfully completed multiple missions, including deployments in places like Germany and Somalia. Despite his lackluster academic performance as a child, Robert excelled at shooting from a young age. This talent earned him considerable respect in the Army, where his shooting skills were highly regarded. This also made him take his job very seriously. According to his colleagues, Robert was a disciplined and highly capable soldier. During his military career, Robert married a nurse named Linda Brewer. Together, they eventually had 5 children. Robert's life seemed to be going well, and he was admired by those around him, including his neighbors, as a role model. He was seen as a perfect father and husband. In his personal life, Robert appeared to be a loving and responsible family man who spent quality time with his children. In the neighborhood, Robert was seen as a decent man, someone serious about his work and responsibilities. However, the image of a perfect husband, father, and individual that he carried was all a facade, a false mask. While Robert presented himself as an ideal person to the outside world, his mind harbored darker thoughts when he was alone. Shooting, violence, bloodshed, and death, these were the things that excited him. During his military career, Robert had spent significant time in high-conflict zones like Germany and Somalia, where he witnessed death and violence up close. These experiences likely became psychological triggers for him. The monster inside Robert first revealed itself in 1975 when he committed his first murder. His victims were a couple, Susan Savage and Patrick Oliver, who lived in the Walla Walla area of Washington. They were leading a peaceful life until one day Robert entered their lives. Without any reason or provocation, Robert approached them, pulled out a gun, and shot them both. They died on the spot. When the police arrived, they were baffled. There was no apparent motive, no personal vendetta, no robbery, nothing. Despite all efforts, the police couldn't find a reason or identify the killer. If not found, the case is closed somewhere. Well, now the 1990s come, and Robert had become even more ferocious. He targeted such girls, such women who had no one to take care of them. Somewhere, Robert started targeting particular sex workers. Well, These were the kind of women who, if they disappeared, no one would suspect much. Everyone would think she must have gone somewhere, and if they died, there was no one to cry for them, no one to report for them. So they were kind of an easy target for Robert. Now what Robert did was take his car, go there, pick up prostitutes, put them in his car, take them to an isolated place, have physical relations with them, and then kill them. Now Robert killed around 11 people in the Washington area in the same way. Hyder Harna, August 1997, Robert picked Hyder from a red light area in Spokane, took her to his van, had physical relations with her, forced her, and then shot her in the head with a .25 caliber pistol, and dumped her body on the outskirts of Spokane. Jennifer Joseph, July 1997. Robert's second victim was Jennifer, who was only 16 years old. He gave Jennifer a lift in his van, and after forcing her, he shot her. Jennifer's body was found in a field. The body was found in a remote area where people rarely ventured. Darla Scott, November 1997. Darla became Robert's third victim. Unlike the previous murders, there was a significant gap between his second and third killings, likely to avoid suspicion. However, his style and pattern remained unchanged. Darla was picked up from a red light district, given a ride, taken to an isolated area, assaulted, and then shot multiple times. Her body was later discovered in a river near Spokane. Melinda Mercer, December 1997. Robert took Melinda to a deserted road where he killed her. When her body was found, it was in a severely decomposed state. Sean McLennan and Laurel Wason, December 1997. On one night, Robert targeted two different women. He took them to separate locations, killed them, and disposed of their bodies deep in a dense forest. Robert continued his killing spree, ultimately claiming the lives of 11 victims. However, he made a critical mistake once. He abducted a woman named Kristen Smith, intending to follow his usual pattern, picking her up, taking her to an isolated spot, and killing her. But this time, things didn't go as planned. When Robert attacked Kristen, she managed to escape and save herself. This mistake marked the beginning of the end for Robert, as it set the stage for him to face justice for his horrific crimes. Initially, Robert maintained long intervals between his murders, possibly to avoid drawing attention. Robert deliberately maintained a pattern with significant gaps between murders to avoid suspicion that they were all committed by the same person. However, as the killings continued and followed an identical pattern, the police became increasingly alarmed. They realized that an active serial killer was operating in their city, systematically targeting women. In response, a task force was formed to solve these murders. By the year 2000, with the help of DNA evidence and ballistics, investigators were able to establish a pattern. They received a tip about a white van that was frequently seen near the crime scenes. The biggest breakthrough in the case came when one of the victims survived and provided critical information about Robert. This victim was Kristen Smith, who had managed to escape from Robert's clutches. Kristen approached the police and revealed everything she knew about Robert, describing his appearance, height, weight, clothing, and other distinguishing features. The police now had every crucial detail about Robert. In April 2000, they arrested him at his home in Spokane. Upon searching his white van, investigators found bloodstains that matched one of the victims. DNA testing directly linked Robert to multiple murders. After his arrest, Robert, like many criminals, initially denied everything. He claimed, "I didn't do this, I couldn't have done this, I'm a soldier," and so on. However, as the police presented one piece of evidence after another, Robert eventually confessed. He admitted to a total of 13 murders, but the police suspected he might be lying and that the actual number could be even higher. After his confession, it was time to present him in court. Robert's trial became a high-profile case, drawing widespread attention from the public and the media. The trial lasted 2 years, and in 2002, Robert was found guilty and sentenced to death. In a separate trial for a different case in Washington state, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. And thus, the chapter of Robert Yates came to an end.